Imagine stepping into the shadows of everyday life, where seemingly ordinary people unveil just astonishing depths of darkness, and baffling mysteries get solved by the most unexpected twists. That's exactly where we're headed today.
Indeed. And these aren't just, sensational headlines. They're intricate puzzles. Our goal is really to dissect them, understanding not just the chilling events, but the ingenious, sometimes purely accidental ways these cases were ultimately cracked open.
Yeah, we've compiled a really fascinating stack of sources for you. I mean, from the shocking actions of a serial killer caught in just the right or wrong moment, to this incredible tale of survival against, believe it or not, a hired hitman. Our mission is basically to distill the crucial insights, giving you a crystal clear picture of these extraordinary events and the surprising keys that unlocked their secrets.
It's definitely a journey into the hidden corners of, human psychology and the relentless pursuit of truth. It reveals how even the most confounding situations can yield to persistence and sometimes just keen observation.
Okay, let's start our first story. We're going back to Bradford, England. Between 2009 and 2010, police found themselves completely stumped by the sudden disappearance of two local women, both prostitutes.
What?
Then the media gave a pretty terrifying name to their suspected killer, the Crossbow Cannibal.
And a compelling aspect of this case, I think, is the early profile of Stephen Griffiths, the man who would become this notorious figure. To many people, he projected this image of politeness, friendliness even.
Despite walking a pet lizard on a leash.
Exactly. Despite that eccentricity, it starkly illustrates the so-called mask of sanity you sometimes see, this outward normalcy camouflaging just unimaginable depravity.
And then came the critical break. And it was chilling, really. A fatal mistake on Griffith's part. There was a CCTV camera in his apartment corridor, and it captured the whole thing. The footage shows him with his third victim, Susan Blamires. They're just chatting casually outside, then they go into the building. You can almost see Griffith's tension in the lift, but Susan seems, totally unaware. Then, just 2.5 minutes after entering his apartment, Susan frantically bursts back out. She's running for her life.
Oh, God.
Griffiths is right behind her, crossbow in hand. He grabs her, then shoots her right there in the head.
It's just an extraordinary, terrible moment. Susan, though tragically losing her life, she inadvertently became the architect of his capture, didn't she? By forcing that interaction right onto the camera feed.
Exactly.
It was this unexpected piece of evidence that provided such a crucial, undeniable breakthrough for the investigators.
And the aftermath revealed this almost unbelievable arrogance. After dragging Susan's lifeless body back into his flat, Griffiths comes back out into the hallway maybe 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
Not just holding the crossbow, but sticking his middle finger up at the camera and just completely remorseless.
Wow.
The building managers, they were already suspicious of him, actually. That's why they'd installed those cameras. They called the police immediately.
Good for them.
He was in cuffs within the hour. Susan's body was later found dumped in a nearby lake, along with his second victim, whose body had been dismembered into 81 pieces, facial features removed.
Just horrific.
The first victim's body, though, never been found.
So you have to ask, what drives someone from that outwardly sort of normal existence to such horrific depravity? Griffith's courtroom confession, it offered a terrifying glimpse into his psyche.
He introduced himself as the Crossbow Cannibal.
He did, calmly describing how he dismembered, cooked, and even ate parts of his victims, then bagged and dumped the rest. I mean, this isn't just random violence. It underscores a meticulous, really disturbing nature to his crimes that went far beyond the initial act.
Yeah.
He's been connected to those 3 murders, but authorities suspect him of at least 5 others.
Just chilling. Okay, so from a killer caught on camera, we now shift to a different kind of anonymity, a victim identified through forensic artistry that, it dared to be anything but realistic. In 2012, police discovered the partially decomposed corpse of a young woman. She was stuffed into a suitcase along a Wisconsin highway, known only as Suitcase Body. No leads, no identity, nothing.
Okay, and a key insight emerges here, I think, regarding how police and forensic artists approach these reconstructions of unidentified bodies. Traditionally, you might expect them to aim for perfect realism.
Right, make it look like a photo.
Exactly. But in cases like this one, they sometimes intentionally exaggerate distinguishing features. For this particular Jane Doe, it was described as her chipmunk-like face.
Chipmunk-like.
Yeah. The goal isn't photographic accuracy, it's memorability. It's about creating an image that sticks in someone's mind, designed to maybe trigger a primal memory or recognition, even if the features seem a bit well, eerie.
And remarkably, this eerie, almost sort of distorted image, it actually worked. The suitcase body was identified as 19-year-old Jenny Gamez from Oregon. Her foster mother, Lorraine, recognized those distinct features immediately.
Incredible.
A breakthrough later confirmed by dental records.
It really highlights the ingenuity sometimes required in these cold cases, leveraging the very features that might seem, unflattering or creepy to achieve that crucial identification. It's a powerful example of how creative thinking can break through investigative dead ends.
But sadly, Jenny wasn't the killer's only victim. Another suitcase, found on the very same stretch of highway, contained the body of 37-year-old Laura Simonson. Eventually, the police were led to the home of Stephen Zelich. He was an ex-cop with a past history of abusing his police powers. Zelich had met both Jenny and Laura in online BDSM chat rooms. He used the username Mr. Handcuffs.
Right, a subculture focused on consensual power exchange, which, in his hands, tragically devolved into coercion and violence.
Exactly. He convinced them to meet him, where they apparently engaged in something called breath play, involving strangulation.
A very dangerous practice.
Both women died under his hand, and then he kept their bodies hidden in his refrigerator for months before dumping them.
This case really compels us to consider the hidden, dark dangers of online interactions and how individuals can exploit vulnerabilities even within specific subcultures. Zelich claimed that their deaths were accidental.
Despite hiding the bodies for months.
Despite keeping and then dumping the bodies. It just demonstrates such a clear lack of remorse and a chilling attempt to evade responsibility. The jury, thankfully, saw straight through it.
Okay, our next story takes us back even further, to the mid-90s, the very early days of the internet. And there was this terrifying urban legend starting to circulate around Kansas City. A man named Slave Master supposedly seducing women in chat rooms and luring them to their deaths. What made it particularly chilling was that this legend turned out to be tragically, horribly true.
And that's a compelling aspect of that period in history, isn't it? The early internet provided this new, largely unpoliced frontier for predatory behavior. The lack of widespread awareness around online safety back then left so many individuals incredibly vulnerable to, sophisticated manipulation.
Yeah, absolutely. Over about a decade, numerous women in the area who used those early online social networks just vanished after contact with Slave Master. His first known online victim, Sheila Faith, was apparently lured by a false promise. He said he'd pay her daughter Debbie's medical expenses for spina bifida.
Oh, that's low.
Sheila and Debbie disappeared, and he then cashed Sheila's pension checks for 7 years.
7 years, wow.
Then came Isabella Lukin, a Polish immigrant. Slave Master convinced her he'd marry her, then got her to sign this chilling 115-item slave contract, giving him total control over her life, her bank accounts.
Unbelievable.
She too vanished. He just told friends she'd been deported.
Convenient.
Finally, he met Suzette Troughton on a BDSM site. She agreed to travel the world with him as his submissive. She met the same fate. He even sent letters to her mother, pretending to be Suzette, detailing how well the trip was supposedly going.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a pattern of just sophisticated long-term manipulation that went far beyond simple murder. It was fundamentally about control, wasn't it? Financial exploitation and just deep-seated psychopathy. The sheer audacity and ability to maintain these elaborate deceptions, even post-mortem. It's utterly chilling.
How did he manage such intricate lies for so long?
That's the terrifying part, right? He just became incredibly cocky. Police eventually traced his online alias to a John Edward Robinson. When they searched his property, they found Isabella and Suzette's decaying bodies stuffed into these massive 85-pound chemical drums in his house.
Oh, God. Chemical drums.
But the horror didn't stop there. In a nearby storage facility, they found Sheila, her daughter Debbie, and another woman, Beverly Bonner, also in acid-filled drums.
So the killing started before the internet even became his main tool.
Exactly. His killing spree actually started before the internet. He'd convinced Beverly Bonner to leave her husband and then arranged for her alimony checks to be sent directly to his address.
But maybe the most depraved detail involved Lisa Stassi. She was a young mother he met at a battered woman's refuge. She met the same gruesome fate. Then, Robinson, knowing his brother and sister-in-law wanted to adopt, he sold them Lisa's 4-month-old baby, claimed the mother had committed suicide, provided forged adoption papers, all for $5,500.
He sold the baby.
Yeah. Lisa's body was never found.
The sheer audacity and just whole calculation involved, particularly selling the child of a victim he had just killed, it's almost beyond comprehension. Robinson is rightfully regarded as the internet's first serial killer, and the fact that several victims' bodies have never been found, perhaps dissolved in those drums, it just underscores the depth of his depravity and the profound, enduring challenges faced by investigators.
Okay, our final story tonight brings us to a terrifying premise, but honestly, one with an incredibly inspiring outcome. Imagine this. You come home from a long day, you walk into your dark, seemingly empty house, only to find it's not empty at all. On September 6, 2006, Susan Kuhnhausen, a nurse, walked into her home in Portland. From behind the bedroom door, a man appeared. Edward Dalton Haffey. He was holding a black claw hammer.
Right. And this is where human resilience just takes center stage. Susan's initial fight-or-flight instincts kicked in, but her experience as a nurse and, crucially, her self-defense training meant she didn't actually flee.
She didn't run.
No. She immediately recognized the critical need to get close to her attacker and to reduce the impact of his hammer swings. What's truly fascinating is her immediate strategic response under such extreme duress. Her training just took over.
So the hammer struck her temple, dazed her, but she kept moving in. Haffey apparently only uttered one phrase the whole encounter. "You're strong."
Chillin'.
Susan wrestled the hammer away from him and slammed it into his head multiple times. He grabbed it back, and that's when Susan grabbed him by the throat and just started strangling him. She screamed, tell me why you're doing this."
Wow.
Eventually, his face turned purple, permanently. She had strangled him to death.
The fact that she not only survived, but completely overcame her attacker. And get this, he had a near-lethal amount of cocaine in his system.
No way.
Yeah. It speaks volumes about the indomitable human will to survive. It's an extraordinary testament to her training, her presence of mind, and ultimately, her inner strength.
So for the police, the immediate question was obvious. Why had Haffey decided to kill Susan? But the real question, the one that actually unlocked the case, was who sent him?
Ah, so he was hired.
Exactly. The answer came when a friend found this out-of-place backpack in Susan's basement. Inside, Hershey syrup, weirdly, cash, diabetes pills, and a notebook. And in the notebook, a cell number and the words, "Call Mike." Mike, it turned out, was Susan's estranged husband. He was struggling financially, had lost his job, and was technically still married to Susan. If she died, he stood to inherit the house.
So he paid Haffey.
He'd paid Haffey, who was a former co-worker, $50,000 to beat her to death. Mike had even provided Haffey with a spare key and the alarm codes, believing nothing would ever link him to the crime.
It raises that important question, doesn't it, about the dark motivations that can arise from personal relationships and, well, desperate financial circumstances. Mike's plan was meticulously laid out, but he fundamentally underestimated Susan's capacity to fight back.
Completely.
His ultimate failure and his later death in prison, it just serves as a stark reminder of how greed can lead to these desperate, deadly schemes that unravel in the most unexpected ways.
So we've navigated 4 incredibly intense and revealing true life mysteries today. From the chilling meticulousness of a serial killer caught purely by chance, to the ingenious ways forensic artists help identify the lost, and that sheer indomitable will of a survivor against a calculated hit.
Yeah, what we've seen today really underscores the varied facets of human darkness, but also importantly, the remarkable ingenuity and profound courage that often bring these dark stories eventually to light. It highlights the persistence of law enforcement and, let's be honest, the unexpected twists of fate that frequently play a decisive role in solving the most baffling cases.
Absolutely. And it's that very blend of the mundane and the monstrous that makes these cases so profoundly unsettling, I think. They push us to consider the hidden realities that might be lurking just beneath the surface of everyday life.
Indeed. These solved cases, they offer us a powerful lens to understand the depths of human behavior and really the critical importance of remaining aware and perceptive in what is, let's face it, an often complex world.
We really hope this deep dive has given you plenty to think about, connecting the dots on these, well, incredible mysteries. What stands out to you from these powerful accounts? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.